everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the JEDI Way here on the Outlaw Nation channel. I am the Outlaw John Rocha here, also known as Rocha Fed around these parts. Really excited to be getting back together with these two awesome people to talk about so much going on in the world of Star Wars. We're just days away from May the 4th. May the 4th be with you, and we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff that's going on in the world of Star Wars, including Bad Batch. Get you ready for May 4th, some Phantom Menace celebrations, and looking back on a particular picture from 10 years ago, and maybe even have some quick thoughts about a new clip that dropped here from Tales of the Empire. So we're going to have a lot of fun having conversations about all that here on the JEDI Way. But let's introduce ourselves. Well, I already did. So let's move it on to our other co-host here on the show, who's been with us from the beginning. She's the co-host of Force Toast Pod, and that is the great Laura Kelly. How are you, Laura?
I'm good. I'm rocking my little adult Omega hairdo with my little bandana. I felt I had to be on theme today. I'm doing great. I had an incredibly busy weekend last weekend at C2E2 here in Chicago. It was a blast. Got to see some amazing panels. I'm exhausted, but it was a great time.
What would you say is your highlight from the C2E2 for you personally?
I wish I could say Star Wars Rebels, but that panel was actually outshined, I think, a little bit by the Hannibal panel. I don't know if either of you watched the NBC series Hannibal a couple of years ago, or I guess that was about 10 years ago now. But they did a reunion panel. I guess it was one of the first ones they've ever done, and it was just fantastic. So I had a blast.
Was Mads there? Was Mads Mikkelsen?
It was Mads and Hugh. They were both there. It was amazing.
Galen Urso there. All right, and of course our third co-host on the show here. He's all in purple there, giving some love to Mace Windu. Kevin Smets, how are you, Mace? Kevin, how are you?
How's everyone doing? This episode is brought to you by Smash City Studios. All right, that was way funnier before we went to air. I do want to say rest in peace, Omega. What a heart-wrenching finale where she died at the end. Can't wait to get into that. Man, oh man, what a finale. Anyways, good to see everybody. Hi.
Take care of my brothers. No, that's not what happened. We're going to get into it.
The final shot with the doll on the grave as they walk away. Oh my God.
Omega's helmet on the stick and just Ahsoka blowing in the snow. No. That's not what happened. But yeah, we are going to get into some spoiler reviews here for episode 14 and 15 of the Bad Batch, and we should warn you ahead of time, we are going to jump into that. And as I said earlier, what we're going to talk about, please remember before we get going to hit a like on this video and to subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate you all subscribing to the Outlaw Nation channel and giving love to JEDI Way, leaving your comments down below, sharing it on all over your social media feed. We appreciate it madly. And we'll get into the other stuff, but we got to start with Bad Batch, y'all. I mean, these two episodes, I rewatched them again today, back to back. Episode 14, Flash Strike, and episode 15, The Cavalry Has Arrived. This was a hell of a finale for 3 seasons of where at times it felt it was kind of meandering, and there was a lot of promise, though, in a number of other episodes. But this season has absolutely been, in my opinion, the best season of the 3 seasons, and I thought we got ourselves a heck of an action-packed finale. And for once, I was able to turn on an episode that was the last episode of a half-hour show, and it was more than half an hour long. And I was so excited to see a 50-minute episode, and the time absolutely flew by. And the penultimate stuff happens in the last 30 minutes of the episode. So the fact that they kept that going for 30 minutes as we headed all the way to the end, and yes, all of them survived, and yes, ended up on Pabu, and then we got a time jump. So much to talk about in these 2 episodes with Tantus, with the batch coming together, and everything that went down here, and things that were revealed as well. Project Stardust, all this stuff that was going on here in this episode. CX clones. So Laura Kelly, I'll start with you overall. Your feelings as you sit back now a little bit now and look at episode 14 and 15. What are your thoughts on how we ended the series for the Bad Batch?
Well, overall, I really liked the ending. I really liked season 3 altogether. It was really season 2 that just didn't hit for me. This season just seemed to be banger after banger, and I was all for it. I almost had kind of forgotten that we hadn't talked about episode 14 on this show yet. But I remember that one of my favorite things about that episode was some of the humor that Rampart in particular brought to the episode. Him trying to dismount from that vessel as it's crashing in the jungle and screaming and flailing was just so perfect. It was the humor that I think we needed to kind of balance out what we got ultimately in the finale, because episode 15 was fantastic, but man, that beginning They got me. They threw me for a loop. I thought you guys were going to be onto something with the whole thing of Omega, whoever, not living. I also went into the episode thinking, like, it's going to be Rogue One. Everyone's going to die. I don't know why I thought that. Like, at the end of the day, this is an animated series primarily aimed at children. There was no way they were ever going to do that, but never would I have guessed that we would have gotten the sort of happy ending that we got. Overall, though, I really liked it. It's been really interesting following some of the discourse on Twitter today, some of the things people liked and didn't like. Ultimately, the question of, did Tech survive? Is he CX2? That whole thing not playing out got a lot. That was one of the big topics of discussion that I kept seeing today, and I was kind of surprised. But ultimately, that just goes back to this thing that all Star Wars have, which is that, or all Star Wars fans have, which is that we get a little bit too ingrained in our head canons and in our theories, and some people have a hard time letting those go. But overall, really enjoyed these 2 episodes. I thought the finale was fantastic. It was an amazing send-off for what ultimately ended up being a really solid animated series.
Yeah, great stuff, Laura. Kevin, what are your thoughts here as you look at these last 2 episodes, especially the finale that just dropped hours ago? As we're recording this, what are your feelings on these last 2 episodes? And overall, do you feel it hit the target, or did it kind of miss it just a little bit? But what are your overall feelings here?
I was way off about a dark ending. I mean, I was convinced of it, but the way they executed the happy ending was so good. I mean, it reminded me of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows with the time jump. Like,
great comparison.
If you guys remember, for any Potterheads out there, where they're on the right outside Hogwarts, and they're all just kind of chilling after he gets rid of the wand, and it fades out, and then it fades into 16 years later. It was very similar to that. Then you see older version of Omega and older version of what's his name? Hunter. Good old. Sorry. Was great to see. And you see Tech's goggles there, which kind of got me. Like all those years later, she still has it. And I'll get into my theories about where they'll go from there. But yeah, overall, like, the episode was great. They had some brutal kills. I wrote some brutal kills down, like with the vibro sword through the wall and crushing, and when Wrecker starts going, and they do tease you on and off, like Wrecker's injury early on, like, it's fine, I'll shake it off. Like, that's totally in the cliche of, like, he's bleeding out, but he's gonna, take every last blaster bolt, saving them as they get off the planet or whatnot.
Yeah.
And for them not to do it, and it's funny too, because, like, I talked about rewatchability, and I think that this series becomes more rewatchable when you realize that they don't all meet like a horrific end. If that makes weird sense to me, but like someone had posted a picture of this season with all of them together, and it's like, okay, they do deserve a happy ending. They've done so much. They busted their ass, right? Like, they did so much stuff. So I really thought they literally stuck the landing for me with that, and we'll get into where I think they go from there. But yeah, and then the hug at the end, like her hugging sorry, I'm just
Hunter.
Not Hunter. Well, she hugs the other guy first. She hugs Crosshair first.
Crosshair.
She totally disses Hunter. She should hug them both at the same time.
On the platform.
Now we know who her favorite parent is. Let's be honest. Yeah, but anyways, and just to shame Laura and your love for Callus, not Callus. Sorry, no Callus. Rampart. A leopard never changes his spots, but I loved it. It was such. That ending reminded me, or that his demise reminded me of the demise of the villain in Jurassic Park, The Lost World in San Diego, when that owner of or when he took over, he gets killed by the baby T-Rex learning from the big. I don't know why. It was just the mood of like that this guy thought he had one over on her, and he had the blaster to it, and then he kills her, which is tragic. And then you see it roll down, and that was such like a fist pump, like big last like F you to him. But yeah, I'm curious to get that's more in the weeds. I'm curious, but overall, I thought it was great, and I think it's the second best episode next to the premiere. I still think the premiere with Order 66 and all of that was my favorite, and then this is it's like great. Like this is I was really happy with it for sure.
Yeah, 14, I think you're right, Laura. I mean, it's fun to see them all coming together and working with Rampart and pushing Rampart around, and we get that big kind of I don't know what kind of animal that was that could stand on its hind legs and come after him, but it was pretty. It was almost like a werewolf in Star Wars. It was super scary to have them deal with all of that. But Rampart's screams are the best part of it all, right? Ah, what are you doing? You know, all of that, and then because Kevin and I have been in a voiceover booth. We know when we got to do the wild screams, it's always weird. But when you see it put in the animation, it's always fun to see when it works. And I thought that was a fantastic element to see. But it was more about them coming together and Omega making the connection with the kids even stronger so that she could win them over to her side and talk them into what they did in the finale and be able to escape and be a part, and almost like Rey not needing Finn and Han to save her in Force Awakens. Omega was already making her way out of the facility, but that's because of the training she has gotten from the guys there over the last 2 seasons. So a lot of payoffs, I thought, over these 2 episodes. And yes, some pretty hardcore deaths. Absolutely some scary moments where you think they're all going to die. Certainly wouldn't be Star Wars without someone losing a hand. And so certainly Crosshair losing that hand. And then Rampart killing Nala Se, which was so heartbreaking, and Omega knowing that Nala Se was going to her death when they had that interaction, I thought was really poignant. I'm not gonna lie to you all, I was very emotional the last 30 minutes. I mean, for me, being in the military, that idea of being with your guys one more time on a mission, and then what happens there as this goes along, and you start to think, okay, they're all going to die. And I was thinking to myself, wow, I really love these guys. Are they all going to die? Are these CX clones going to get the best of them? And is it going to be Tech? Oh my God, it'd be horrible that their own brother is killing them. So there was all these things running through my head, but then it ended up working out the way that it did. And I accepted it and I bought it. I thought it worked really well. And I thought the death of Rampart was great. And the death of Hemlock was great. It was very similar to Rogue One, right? Being out on that pier in the rain, kind of in the middle of the movie there with Urso, having what happens to Galen. All of that felt very familiar to me. And I thought it worked. And you got the Crosshair redemption with the shot. And then also, as you said, Kevin, she goes to hug him first, then hugs Hunter and them together. So there's a lot of power in this. So it's very emotional watching this.
How about the animation on that bridge too, with the rain and like the lighting?
Stellar.
Fantastic. And to go with your point, I got emotional too. I'm sure fans of the Clone Wars would too, when all the clones were together and they played the clone theme from Kevin Kinder's clone theme. And you're just like, yeah. Just goosebumps. Look at that. I'm pulling a rock again. Goosebumps. But yeah.
The mini clone rebellion that a lot of people were predicting happened there in that episode. But the last thing that got me were Tech's glasses on the dashboard there of the ship, because to me that symbolizes that he's gone and that his memory though will live on, and that there were real stakes in the show. And I thought that was important as well. Yeah. Laura, I swing back to you. What did you think overall of how they handled the storyline here with Hemlock? By the end, it's over, and they've lost the information. Tarkin comes in, shuts it down, says we're going to divert funds to Project Stardust, which is probably what he wanted to do from the beginning. And this explains why Project Necromancer has been on ice until the New Republic. Did you like the way this all went down with Hemlock and the storyline, and then him dying, not getting a body, but him dying off that platform? What do you think about how they handled him throughout this final episode?
Oh, I thought this was wildly fascinating, or wildly satisfying for Hemlock in particular, because man, of all the villains that we've gotten in Star Wars, and we've had some doozies, he's pretty high up there, being just over the top evil. Yeah. The fact that we did get that, I know I kind of had that same thought when he went over the edge. I'm like, oh boy, we're not going to see his body, are we? But then the Empire sort of confirms that a little bit later. We get the shot of he perished in the attack. I was like, yes, that's all I needed. So overall, I thought everything that went down with him was really satisfying. I think that Tarkin coming into play again right here at the very end, just kind of as a final like fuck you to this guy, to Hemlock, was a really nice touch. It's like, you don't want to cheer for either of these guys, but like that actually worked out really well, I think, kind of getting to see all of that, all of his work and all of that money and everything go to waste. And the fact that we are sort of the fact that they actually identified Project Necromancer so many times by name this season. We got the call out in The Mandalorian. It's kind of nice that we are making all of these connections to what ultimately plays out in the sequel trilogy. I know that we're kind of backtracking and we're kind of adding in some of this extra context,
yes,
retroactively, but honestly, with the storytelling this season and this show in particular was so solid. I don't even mind. I think it worked out really well. But speaking of villains, I do want to run this by you, Rocha, because I thought of you when Rampart died. I'm like, here we were it felt like we were sort of getting a hint that we might be headed towards like a sort of redemption arc for Rampart. It wasn't necessarily clear by the time we finished up episode 14. And even when he was freed amongst the clones in episode 15, where we were headed, and all I could think of in my head was you being like, not everybody has to be redeemed. So I'm curious to hear what you thought about his ultimate downfall.
Oh, I loved it. And I thought it was perfect. Because like you, I was thinking the same thing. When he peered around the corner of that circular thing, when they were all figuring out what they were going to do, and he was looking in and seeing, and then he was like, wait, this is stupid. We can't go back for the clones. We need to get out of here. I thought, well, maybe he's he's resisting, but maybe they're going to turn him around and he's going to see that there's value in the fact that these clones care about each other, which of course Hemlock uses later to kind of dig in at Omega. But I thought this was perfect. Having him follow Nala Se, I was like, damn it, of course. And and I thought the back and forth lasted way longer than I anticipated between him and Nala Se and him getting all the information. So it was like he got to get all the information, which was his final gift of existence, and then he was taken out. And I love the way he was taken out because he's literally starting to say a sentence and he blows up. And I thought that was gutsy as hell and a brilliant dark ending to a guy like this. And look, there was a chance for Rampart to be redeemed. He didn't take the chance, and therefore death came for him. And I was okay with it because he killed Nala Se, which was heartbreaking. Just to see the light leave her eyes, it was devastating, just devastating. Yeah. So yeah,
it wasn't as devastating for me. Like she knew she was going to die. It was sad, but
right.
She knew she was going to die. So like the life came out of her, but it's like, okay, but I still got you. Like it was like, I guess that would be more for us, not for her. She was probably bummed to die, but yeah,
I wanted her to die, like holding the thing, blowing it all up.
Saying, you lost.
Like Joe Morton in Terminator 2, right? When he's like losing breath.
Yes.
Like, I wanted her to die like that, not shot by Rampart. But in the end, her dropping the grenade was perfect.
So John, you wanted her to suffer from a gunshot wound and bleed out and have shorter breath, or just die instantly by a blaster and then when she falls, the thing dies. So you want her to suffer. Everybody know John wants her to suffer on her deathbed, whereas I want a quick death, drop the thing, blow everything up.
I just want to hear short breaths from Nala Se.
With her little neck too, like and then it just stops. Oh.
In her slow speaking, it just takes forever for her to die. She just keeps letting a few extra words slip out.
Oh, this got dark, but I love it.
Dead. Kevin, Laura's question over to you, Kevin. Do you like how they handle the death of Rampart and what happened with him and Nala Se? And
oh man, yeah.
And
I can't say enough about it. I just think that I love those like epic, like it did feel like the conclusion of a epic story that you just kind of stays with you for a while. I've been thinking about it all day today. So yeah, A+ on that death, A+ on the bridge scene with him like studying and like trust her, she knows what to do, and the lighting, like I said, with the rain and the lighting effects, like you really do forget. It sounds cliche, but this one you forget that you're watching like an animated, like this is like a a cartoon that its origins were on the Cartoon Network, with not this show, but basically everything from that universe. So yeah,
no, fantastic. I agree. There were a lot of beautiful cinematic shots in this finale for sure, especially that almost second to last shot with Hunter and Omega and the moon out there.
Oh yeah, someone liked to put that on Twitter today, and he's not. I don't even follow him. Thank you, Elon Musk. I don't know why this showed up. Just a guy. Thankfully, I never saw the episode, but I even tweeted him. I'm like, first of all, I don't know why your tweets show up on my timeline. Secondly, be better. Like you could tell it's a fast forwarded timeline. Like, and it's like, thank God I had seen the episode, but I was like, but why am I, if I don't follow the guy, why does he give me tweets from him? Don't understand that. But
well, he owns the thing. That's why. He can put it wherever he wants.
Elon Musk was tweeting about Bad Batch, basically.
It's his fault.
Yeah.
Great shot though, John. Just to say, didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no. Back to you, Kevin, on this. What did you think, Kevin, about how they handled the? Let's deal with it. How they handled the Bad Batch? Did you like the way they worked together here? Did you like that Crosshair? Did you think Crosshair was going to convince them to let him go into Mount Tantas alone while they sat back and took care of business and tried to find Omega? Or did you like that they worked together? And then when they were caught, did you think they were going to die? And then by the end, did you like that they ended up living and just growing old on Pabu and saying, we're here if you ever need us? Really, if I felt leaning into his native roots with the look and the design of how they had Hunter by the end. What did you think of how the Bad Batch progressed throughout these last 2 episodes?
Yeah, that scene in the forest or in the woods or whatever, outside the base where he's like, I'm going to go alone. Was fantastic, where they're like, no, we're all going, we're not doing Order 99 or whatever it is.
Yeah,
like, that was just so cool to see. And yeah, I like that like, I'm normally the one that loves to kill people off. I needlessly kill characters off in my KOTOR movies, by the way, that survive the game. And like, I'll get angry messages like, why did you do that to this character? It made like, that was gut wrenching. I'm like, I like to have death and like stakes and weight, but this one, it didn't need to. Like they are the elite of the elite of the elite. So it would be understandable, aside from the special ones they had to take out, that they would be able to like handle this, right? So, and then just doing a time jump, I thought was really cool, and it sets up. Well, I'll wait. I want to hear Laura's thoughts.
Talk about that.
I want to hear what Laura's thoughts are on the Bad Batch. Yeah, as far as that as a group goes. But yeah, I thought it was excellent, and just you really did feel that brotherhood. Yeah.
Laura, will you find that nobody died and they all got to live? And did you like the way they moved through their emotional beats to the point where you ended up right at the end there with Hunter giving Crosshair confidence to take that shot, and then later having that moment with Hunter and Omega, and that beautiful moment of Babu. Well, all 3 of them are sitting there with Omega against the tree, which I think is sweet.
Yes, as we fade to black on Pabu, I really like that scene, even with Batcher sitting there too. It's just it was fantastic. It was a great way to end it. But I think tying up that, I don't think it was a loose end, but sort of tying up that story and that rivalry and that sort of anger and conflict that was happening between Hunter and Crosshair earlier in this season, and having that come to a head on that bridge with him holding the gun for him. I'm like, that was so beautiful. And that was such a great way to tie everything up with them. I was a little bit worried about Wrecker at the end. I guess really everybody, because the ending of it, just where they're like, okay, let's get to the shuttle. And then we see like 2 of them get on the shuttle. And I'm like, wait, who else was on the shuttle? Like that last part just felt like a little bit rushed. I'm like, wait. Like, can we do a head count? Like, I don't know if everybody got on. But obviously it worked out. It was a happy ending ultimately. But I thought the way that they worked together was excellent. It seemed very, these characters are so lived in at this point that everything felt very natural, even with the absence of Echo through most of this season. Right. Him coming back and having such a massive role in this finale was so great. I loved him teaming up with Emery. I thought they made for like a really great team on this last, kind of trying to follow Omega throughout the facility as she's trying to escape and sort of always being one step behind her. And then even when they eventually do reunite, Echo not questioning in any way when Omega's like, I'm going to go off and do my own part of this mission. You follow me. Like, he is not worried about her at all. He just lets her go. I mean, I think about like if that had been Hunter in that position, having him probably being so worried and not wanting to be separated from Omega at any point. But Echo just lets it happen because he knows it's all good. Like, I love it. And so I think that the way everybody came together, worked together in this finale, worked really, really well for these characters. Omega teaming up with all of those Force kids to get them to safety. I mean, the entire time, all I was thinking was like, look how far she's come. There's no way she's going to survive this. I mean, I have it in my notes like multiple times. I'm like, this is going to end so badly and I'm going to be so sad. But the fact that we get this happy ending, I'm not saying we don't ever get happy endings in Star Wars. We do, but it's nice to have one like this every now and then. We're like, pretty much everyone lives happily ever after. I'm all for it. I wish we had more of it, frankly.
I feel like the series earned it, especially this entire season earned this ending. Kevin, what did you think of how they handled Omega in this in this 14th episode, this previous episode leading into this episode, with her essentially creating a mini squad with the kids and them working through the vents, tricking that other female doctor and having the droid, which was super, like, it was like Jaws, watching that droid circle around slowly, and you knew he was gonna do something to that doctor and just like jab her, and she was out. And then them going through the vents and all of that, and then releasing the Zillow beast. I love the outside where they're like, they both say Omega did it. Hunter and Wrecker, I think, say that together. So, like, do you like how Omega was handled and then taking control there at the end, as Laura pointed out? And in essence, take control of her own rescue and her own savior, because she stabs Hemlock in order to create the shot. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, no, I liked it. I always laugh though, like in anything futuristic, like especially the Empire running it, like where they can like talk. Like you'd think in the future or the past, I guess, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, but somewhere with advanced technological advances, there would be microphones everywhere. So like you couldn't even like whisper what your plan is, like, you know what I mean? Unless like the Empire passed like you need to have the consent of both parties in order to spy, right? Because like that would get shut down the second the kid's like, okay, I went through the vent last night, you know what I mean? So I always laugh at that. But yeah, I just thought that was great. And I knew the kids were going to get out. I didn't know that Emery was going to get her happy ending. I thought that was cool. Like that she got out, and she really does want to, like, I love that line where she's like, I just want to do the right thing. Like that was a great line. And Omega having that confidence and instilling that confidence in the kids was a nice touch.
Yeah. Laura, I thought Emery was going to turn on them. I'm not going to lie. I like the whole time. I'm like, she's going to change her mind. She's going to change her mind. She kind of came across a little too quickly, came over to the other side. She was going to have a moment to question. I thought we'd have one more moment where she might not help them or might reconsider helping them. But no, she stayed true to form. And then by the end, it feels like we're shipping Echo and Emery down the road. I don't know.
Okay, I saw somebody else talk about that on Twitter, and I was just like, okay, so we were all feeling that, right?
Yeah.
Also, then of course somebody in the replies is just like, they're like siblings, right? Like they're basically like they're like the same. I'm like, I mean, but like we all went through Game of Thrones in ships there, right? I mean, we'll let some of it go. Like it's fine. But I get where you're coming from there. When I don't, but I do, because I think last season I had no idea and did not see it coming at all. Sid turning on the Bad Batch. I did not. I was like, she's gotten attached to Omega. She likes her. She wouldn't do anything to compromise her. And then look how that went down. So I guess I can kind of see it, but I have attached to Emery so hard this season. I really like her as a character, and I just really want to know more about her past. So it never even occurred to me that would be the case this season, but that's interesting.
I just had my questions in that moment if she was going to do it. And of course, shout out to Keisha Castle Hughes, who is such a fantastic actress, and to get a
future star of the movie or TV show Rogue Squadron, but we'll get into that.
Oh, yeah. Okay, all right. Yeah. Fair point. And I've enjoyed her getting a chance to shine, because of course I remember her in Whale Rider. I remember watching that movie and loving Keisha Castle Hughes, and she kind of disappeared for a bit, then popped back up again, and now having her be a little more in our sights with Game of Thrones and now with Bad Batch, I think is great to see. Let's do this finale. Let's talk about this, Kevin. You've been hinting at it, so the floor is yours, my friend. What are your thoughts here? We jump in time. It seems like at least 15, 20 years later, Omega's older. She's aging naturally because she's that kind of a clone. And we see Hunter there, and Hunter's clearly older, a little heartbreaking, kind of that old dad sitting there on the porch. You can still do it if you need him to, but he's also really tired from all the wars and the battles. They finally caught up with him. And it was very beautiful, that interaction. And she's saying, the Alliance needs the Rebel Alliance needs pilots. Well, I mean, they always need pilots. I just think that's something they put out there, and even just in case. And so she goes off, says it's time. He says, I'll always be there, or will always be there. So what does this mean? What's in the ending, first of all, and what do you think this means? Are we going to see Omega now pop up in future stuff because of the timelines and how they work in the future stuff that's coming out here from Star Wars?
What planet were they on again at the end, the very end part?
Pabu.
Pabu, yeah.
So yeah, the epic shot when she leaves at the end is great.
Yeah.
I had no clue going in that she would talk about wanting to join the rebellion. And so that's great. And she's she could just go in and she'd just be a pilot. Now, Keisha Castle Hughes is New Zealand descent. She voiced Emery, who's the older version of Omega, right?
Yeah.
So now you have this younger Omega, but like, I don't know. Just to me, I was like, you're gonna join the Air Force or whatever, the Rogue Squadron, or she's saying she wants to join the rebellion as a pilot. So obviously, hopefully she would be there. And if they're, wanting to have a cool tie-in, I don't know if she would necessarily be the lead, but if maybe she could be, but if they're going to go a Top Gun route where they're going to have a squad of pilots and she could be one of them, and we know that's Omega, fans would go, I would lose my mind. I thought that was a really cool thing. So it immediately stuck to me when she said she was going to join the rebellion. And I'm not in that whole thing of like, well, then she must have died during the, because then she doesn't show up later. And where is she was she in Wedge? We don't need to put a new special edition out where she's in the Battle of the Death Star or anything like that. But I just think it's cool that she, at some point joins the rebellion. And now you could have, thrown around a lot, but you could have your headcanon that she's one of the pilots in the Battle of Endor, rocking it. So, and hopefully surviving. So I thought it was really cool. What do you guys think? Where do you think they're going to go? Because it's an oddly specific thing. They could have just faded it out and it would have been perfect in that shot with all of them before the time jump. And even if they do a time jump where it could just be her saying, I'm going to go off and join the rebellion. But, they specifically say as a pilot. So where do you guys land on that? What do you think? Do you think we'll see her again in live action or in animation? Are they going to do a sequel show animated, or where do you think we're going to go with this? I'm curious.
Good question. Laura, what do you think of the ending? And then answer Kevin's question, please.
I loved the ending. If there hadn't been an epilogue, I think I would have been online raising hell, because I've now been so conditioned to have an epilogue in every story. And part of that comes from the books, and part of it comes from every other animated series that we've had. So I would have been angry, to say the least. Although, I mean, ultimately it was a satisfying ending. But I needed this last little bit, and I sobbed through most of it. So I had to go back and watch it multiple times to try and catch every little bit. I am not like really into pilot stories to like battle like type of scenes and stuff. Like, that's not why I'm there for Star Wars. I get that there's a whole slew of fans that are just there for like space battles and stuff. So hopefully they're excited for the possibility of bringing Omega back into something like a Rogue Squadron. But I really like this idea, actually. I like the idea of bringing her back, and I think that this makes a lot of sense, having her join the rebellion, because her entire mission this entire season was there's a bigger mission here. This isn't just about me. This is about rescuing all of the clones. So it seems like a very natural segue that she would eventually end up in the rebellion, I think, hopefully fighting alongside Rex at some point. So I think that works really well. But the idea of Keisha Castle Hughes playing an older Omega was floating around back in like 2021. I think I saw like on Twitter, people were talking about it then. And I love the idea. I love the idea of bringing her into live action and getting to see an older version of this character. I know they don't sound exactly the same, but it would make sense that she would get older and her voice would drop a little bit in register. And I think that, the fact that Emery is sort of her older sister, I think it tracks. I think it would work. I really think it would work. Now, if we don't ever get it, that's fine. I will be fine if we never see Omega again, and I can just go on existing like she survived the Battle of Endor and she survived Exegol and she was there for all of it. I would be very happy just letting that go. But I would also be very happy to see it in live action or animation, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I like the ending. I didn't see it coming. Like, I thought, okay, this is it's an animated show. It's Disney Plus. Them leaning against the tree with Batcher, perfect ending. Everyone's her on his shoulder, on Hunter's shoulder. This is all set up perfectly. Hell, it's a painting. Paint that. It's beautiful.
Right.
And then the coda happened, and I was like, oh shit. I was literally getting out of my chair. And when the coda jumped, I was like, okay, I'm gonna let this play out, and I'm gonna start writing my notes. And then all of a sudden the coda, I was like, what? I jumped back over and watched this. And I thought this was great. I thought the animation of her looking older was fantastic. I think the voice, who is it that voices over? She did a great job adjusting her voice to make Omega older.
Michelle Ang.
Yeah, Michelle Ang.
Right?
Sorry about that. Yeah, Michelle did a great job adjusting her voice to make her older. And Hunter as well, D. Bradley Baker, giving him that kind of old Rambo, John Rambo kind of gravel there as an older Hunter. I thought was really sweet. And then, as I said, her getting in the her saying, "This is my fight." That's a great way of saying, like, you were the Clone Wars era. It's my era now with the Rebel Alliance, the original trilogy era. This is where I exist now. So this is my fight, and him saying, if we're here, if you need us. But I thought it was a beautiful send off. But yeah, as I was looking at where she could pop up timeline wise, if we could see her in Skeleton Crew, we could see her in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. That is very, very possible because she's younger than Ahsoka, younger than Bo-Katan. So I think that's possible. And who knows what other iterations of Omega we'll see. But I don't think you include that epilogue if you don't have plans for Omega in the future. That's what I think. And so, because you could have easily ended it with the Pabu ending on the tree and be done with it. But you add that because you have plans for Omega. I mean, I thought initially that was Asajj. Because she was going into the caves. I'm like, oh wait, is she going to find Asajj? Is there training? What's going to go on here? But no, it was her. And so when I saw that, I was like, okay, well, clearly they have bigger plans for Omega. So at some point, I think we are going to see her live action, like we've seen Ahsoka, like we've seen Bo-Katan. So I would not be surprised if it's Keisha or another a New Zealand actress to play Omega. But now I'm excited to see what else is there, because it's like she carries the legacy of the Bad Batch with her. Even if the Bad Batch doesn't go forward, the fact that she can go forward lets us, those of us who love the Bad Batch, go along with her and have all of that history invested in what Omega does. So yeah, I'd be down with it 100%.
It's cool that they made a mention too that both Wrecker and Crosshair are still around,
Yes.
Yeah.
You could be guessing like, oh, like is it just them too, So
yeah. All right. So anything else we should touch on that I didn't hit on? I know, Laura, you have notes. Kevin, you've made anything that you guys want to make sure we highlight here as we wrap up our because we've been talking for 30 minutes on this episode, on these two episodes. Anything we missed, or do you guys want to make sure we highlight before we wrap up?
I did see one suggestion thrown out there on Twitter of Omega potentially showing up in Andor season 2. I doubt it'll happen, but it could be another option. I don't know.
I love that idea. Yeah,
we had a lot of like sort of Andor tie-ins a little bit visually in this season, so I think it could be a possibility. I do have one sort of complaint about.
Okay. Yeah,
you mentioned Asajj Ventress, and it brought it up for me that there is one. And I know they do this a lot. There's one like scene line in the trailer for this series that has Asajj just saying something that we never actually saw. We never saw the scene actually play in the show. And so I went into this finale thinking like, oh, we're going to bring Asajj back for like one last scene because we didn't hear that. We need like just one more little hit. That never came to fruition. I'm just like, why? Don't put it in the trailer. Like, it's fine. I know. Like, we got an entire trailer for Rogue One where none of it was in the movie. I get it. It's fine.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Jyn Erso didn't face down a TIE fighter.
You don't remember that in the movie? Yeah. No, it was. So that's kind of my only thing. I hate to end on like a sour note. I overall really, really loved it, but I still need that story of. I need the defense of why we brought Asajj back for that, because I stand by my point that could have been any Force user, honestly.
Yeah, there was all that hoopla around that, Kevin, was with Asajj coming back, and we'll trust us. We're going to write it and you're going to get it. It's going to work. And they didn't really do that at this point. They haven't really fully done that. So it seemed like a lot of hoopla and excuses for just validating her being in this one episode and telling everybody to just wait for a little while longer before they can fully flesh out Asajj Ventress coming back from the dead, in essence.
Yeah, I think they'll be bringing her for more stuff. I think she said this is just the beginning, so
yeah.
I'm gonna let them cook, as they say,
as the kids say nowadays.
Fair enough.
All right, and another great job with the score as well throughout this episode. Really, kind of underlining these hard moments, tough moments, emotional moments, exciting, thrilling moments, and satisfying moments as well by the end of the episode. So yeah, fantastic stuff. So
it would have been a good episode to watch in a theater, thinking about some of those moments, like you'd hear probably like an opening night MCU, back in 2019, 2018 era, like with the detonator, like, that would have gotten but then a cheer and stuff like that. That would have been cool.
Agreed, man. Agreed. All right, well, there you go. That's our spoiler review for the final 2 episodes of the Bad Batch, the final episodes, I would say, of the Bad Batch here series in season 3. So thank you all so much for all the comments you've left as we've reviewed it through the last couple of years that the show has been around. And sadly, we say goodbye to the Bad Batch here after this. And any final words, Laura, Kevin, on the Bad Batch as we wrap up here, and then we'll take a break and jump into the other topics.
No. Amazing send-off for an amazing series. Well done to everybody involved in making it.
Agreed. All right, let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about some of these other stories here and wrap up the show here right after this. All right, y'all, we are back. Let's talk about this. There's a particular film that's coming back out here as we look at May the 4th. It is Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. And I've been reading, obviously for the last few years, there have been a lot of revisionism on people's feelings on the prequel trilogy. Certainly now it's accepted by a lot of Star Wars fans as a trilogy that was unfairly vilified. And I even saw, was it The Telegraph who wrote an article there saying it proved the haters wrong and all of that. So it's about to come out in the theaters. I think May 3rd is when it's coming out this weekend. So what are your thoughts on the Phantom Menace all these years later? 25 years later? When you think about it, do you think some of the criticism is still warranted? Do you think some of the reappreciation is warranted, or have your feelings not really changed for this movie over the years since over the 2 decades that it's been out? Laura, I'll go to you first.
Well, this was the first Star Wars movie I ever saw in a theater when I was probably 11 or 12 years old. And it didn't really connect with me then. It didn't draw me into the fandom by any means. It would have been years before I saw the rest of the prequel movies, but it's warmed up in its place in my heart, I think now. I think maybe this article, it's from the Independent that you sent us.
Yeah.
You sent us. I think this may have gone a little far. It may have been a little, now it does sort of acknowledge the other side of it. But I'm not sure if I would give it quite as much praise. Now I'm not really in any hurry to go see it in theaters while it's back in theaters for the 25th anniversary.
Schmodown, that's why.
I know, right? I have been burned. I am traumatized. But the only reason I think I would actually buy a ticket and go see it is because they're doing a preview of The Acolyte.
Yes.
And the scene that they're showing is the same scene I think I saw at Star Wars Celebration. It's like the duel between Carrie Ann Moss and Amanda Stenberg, I think. It's great. Yeah. It's fantastic. There are already clips of it going around on Twitter, so I don't even need to go to a theater to see it, but I still might. I don't know. But there's one line in this article that is so great that I think does make a really good point, which is that the Phantom Menace, Duel of the Fates specifically, that whole scene, makes the stiff saber combat of the original trilogy look like geriatric fisticuffs. And that is spot fucking on. I mean, that I remember watching the original trilogy for the first time as an adult, mind you, and being like, wow, this is what happens. I mean, the nostalgia of something, you get nostalgia blinders. You do. Everybody does. Oh yeah. Everybody's got them. There are components of having that for the original trilogy, as amazing as it is. And I acknowledge that. I still was like, wow, the first time I watched it. So I think that they make some good points, but I'm not sure I would go quite as far as to say that it's any kind of masterpiece outside of Duel of the Fates. That whole scene and the music in that movie is also fantastic.
Yeah, it has a tough legacy with what happened with Ahmed Best and of course with Jake Lloyd, but Hayden Christensen is back in the fold. We just had a Kenobi series, and we've seen people redeeming the prequel trilogy over the last couple of decades, so much so that there was a massive celebration of it at the recent Star Wars Celebration. Of course, the Japan had the tickets go on sale. So I'm sure they'll have something there for that as well. So Kevin, your thoughts here as you look back on the Phantom Menace is about to come out in theaters as well. What are your feelings on the film overall? And have they changed over the last 2+ decades?
I've always kind of liked it. It's not my favorite, but the other thing is he created the CGI character of Jar Jar is like one of the first leads ever done as like a full lead in a movie. That's another breakthrough, which I thought is great. I will say that it's not just nostalgia that hangs on for the lightsaber battles for me. It's also the talking. That's what I missed in the prequels, was the back and forth, the seduction, and the, you know, come here. Like the Empire Strikes Back duel is so great because it's Vader stalking him and talking, and then in Return of the Jedi talking shit, and then saying, "Oh, your sister, I'll get your sister." Like that's what I'll get. Like, so that's why those I think rank sometimes higher than just the jumping around and stuff like that. But I understand why some people would say that it, especially the A New Hope one. In fact, originally I believe that Lucas was telling his actors that the light is so powerful that it's as heavy as like a broadsword. That's why they're not swinging it around. So. And you could have you ever seen scene 38B or whatever? Have you seen that re-edit?
Where they extend out the fight?
These guys like they did deep fake technology, and they did it's like Duel of the Fates round 2.
It was fucking bad.
Or not, sorry, Battle of the Heroes from the Revenge of the Sith round 2 in A New Hope in the Death Star. Really, I'll send it to you guys. It's great. So yeah, overall though, like the pod race was an achievement as well, with the production design and the sound design, especially the sound design. And why I respect it so much, again, and I've talked about it, is, and this is not me shitting on The Force Awakens because I like The Force Awakens, but The Force Awakens had TIE fighters and it had X-Wings again. And I know they were trying to go back to something that was familiar because a lot of people back then didn't like the prequels, right?
Yeah, no, we did.
And kudos to George Lucas for saying, no, like, I'm going to have this starship that's all like shiny and like a mirror. And we're going to go with, we're not going to, you go to Tatooine. So there's enough familiarity there, but still it's like a less lived, like it's so, a lot of the stuff with Naboo and stuff, it didn't feel Star Wars because it wasn't Star Wars until it became Star Wars, right? And I thought that those were great, excellent. So I don't know if I'm going to quite see it too. I peeped a Showtime that I saw for this weekend if I just wanted to pop in. But I too am a little still scarred from the Schmodown days of watching these movies over and over. So not sure if I'll see it on the big screen, but I will always have love for it. It was shot on film too, the last Star Wars film. So shot on film. So you got to give some love to that. And I think it's great that more people will discover it and have fun at the theaters this weekend. And yeah, it's always good to have Star Wars on the big screen because we don't have it on the big screen these days.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I mean, for me, I tried watching it again a couple of years ago, and it's just not my movie, right? And again, I want people to hear this with open ears. In no way am I judging you. If it is your movie, love what you love, like what you like. In no way am I judging. But for me, I tried. I was like, well, maybe these guys are maybe there is something I'm missing here. I'm going to rewatch it again. A couple of years ago, I was on vacation, so my mind was very chill, ready to receive it. And an hour in, I just couldn't watch it anymore. It's not my cup of tea for whatever reason. I do think the prequel trilogy, it's better as it goes along. I actually think Attack of the Clones has some really good stuff in it that can be reappraised now, because that was the one that was vilified the most of the three. I remember that was the one initially that was attacked the most. Although they did come after Jar Jar, of course, and Jake's acting, but it was Attack of the Clones that a lot of people had issues with. But the third one, of course, leads into a better situation there. And there's a lot of potential. And so I think for that, it's Phantom Menace serves its purpose. And for those of you that love it, great. It's just don't shit on those of us who legitimately can poke holes in it, and don't what about it either. Don't do the what aboutism. Go, what about this in the original trilogy? That's not how it works. You take the piece for as it is, and there are holes you can poke in the story. There are holes you can poke in some of the emotions, some of the acting, some of the decisions there is. But if, as Laura said, you've got that nostalgia for it, in no way would I ever seek to rob that experience from anybody, because I guarantee you there's a crap ton of films that I love from the 80s that you all would laugh at people loving, for sure, because it's a different time. So, but I think it's great that people who do love it and the reappreciation of the film have it come out in the theaters. I bet it's going to make a lot of money. I mean, Spider-Man 1 and 2 and 3 have been making money at the box office. So why, as they're with these re-releases, so why not do this with Phantom Menace? And I bet it's going to do a lot of business for the people who want to see it in the theater one more time, for sure. And speaking of what Kevin was talking about, and that is Force Awakens, 10 years ago, this famous picture was put out right at the beginning of the Star Wars sequel trilogy here. All this promise in the room. J.J. Abrams, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Daisy Ridley there, Oscar Isaac, Adam Driver, John Boyega, so many, Mark Hamill, so many people around this circle with possibilities. R2D2 in a box there in the back behind Harrison and JJ. And just this feeling and this energy doing a read through, sitting amongst the boxes where the props and all these set pieces are going to be put onto these sets. And now it's been 10 years of incredible weirdness and just bumps and bruises. And now we have channels fully dedicated to tearing down Star Wars with every video, and other channels who are trying to be uber positive, and then other channels like us who are kind of walk in the middle. Kevin, it's been 10 years. What do you think when you look at that picture, man?
Well, I made that analogy to you guys. I think it's that photo that's so full of excitement. I remember the first time seeing it, like all excited about it. And this is not coming as a sequel hater. I actually like them, and I like The Force Awakens. But I was comparing them. It's like looking at like a picture of all the like a squad of soldiers all excited, like war. We're gonna go off to war. It's gonna be an adventure. See, and we're gonna go over the seas and adventure. And then it's like the day before D-Day. They have no idea the shitstorm they're about to encounter for the next several years with all the toxic fans out there and stuff. So like I look at it with fondness because I know how I reacted to it when seeing it and how excited I was. But then I see like it kind of bums me out. Like also because like I don't think the trilogy was quite, they didn't stick the landing quite as well as I thought they could, and they didn't have that sure plan all the way through. You'd think, like, for me, my argument is when that photo was taken, The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker should have already been outlined out, and now they're going to find the directors that are going to tell that story. That's my point. That's what I really firmly believe. They didn't do that. They were doing the pass baton and throw things out and start it over. So I look at it like with equal parts of like kind of disappointed in some of the way the sequel trilogy panned out, and also bummed for like some of those actors that really went through hell after that, but all in all, I just remember fondness for looking at that photo and the excitement that was leading up to what is a good movie in The Force Awakens.
Yeah, what do you feel, Laura, when you look at this photo? Is it more about what could have been, or is it more like, hey, you know what? There was promise here, and they took a shot at it. Maybe didn't 100% get there, but I'm still glad that these incredibly talented people took a shot at making this sequel trilogy. And we do have Daisy Ridley coming back in the Rey movie, and possibly John Boyega, according to my sources. And who knows what that means for Poe Dameron and other people involved in this. So what are your thoughts when you look at that photo now 10 years later? Because it came out like I think 10 years ago, the picture. So what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I look back on it fondly. I think I mean, I remember The Force Awakens coming out. Like, one of the trailers is what really sucked me into the Star Wars fan. Like, I wouldn't be in this room right now without the Force Awakens. So I have a lot of fondness for that movie, and probably always will. I think it imprinted on me in a massive way. But it is sad when you think about what all of these people went through, and you think about how Daisy Ridley has had stints where she's gone completely off of social media. And I want to say John Boyega probably has too. And rightfully so. I 100% get it. And, you look at a picture like this where they're all just so young and innocent and dumb and happy. And it's like, you don't even know what's coming at you. But at the end of the day, for me personally, I will always look back on that movie with fondness, and that time with fondness, because that was so far before I ever learned that there even was a toxic component to the Star Wars fandom, because my entry after The Force Awakens was Rebels, and that was mostly a really positive place for the 3-4 years that I was involved in that fandom too. It really wasn't until The Last Jedi that shit went down. So I do and will always probably look back at that picture with fondness. I think it's great to kind of look back at something like that. But what are your thoughts? What are you thinking when you see that?
I think Kevin kind of hit it a little bit. It's like a horror movie where you're seeing that's the final shot before all the horror happened. It's that shot at the campfire when they're all laughing and giggling, and then like piece by piece they all get killed off except for one person surviving, and then the movie goes back to that final photo as the final credits roll. And but I'm also with you, Laura. There's a lot of promise and joy and possibility in that photo, and that makes me excited. And this is going to be weird for people to kind of put into context for what I'm about to say, because Star Wars has been around for decades, but coming back always, when they came back with the prequel trilogy, when they come back with a sequel trilogy, there's always the possibility. And for people who don't remember, because maybe you're too young, Phantom Menace was met with a lot of disappointment from a lot of fans who were of adult age. The prequel or the sequel trilogy, same situation is happening all over again. And to me, I see them as those people who had to run through the wall first so that all the stuff could come after them that we're enjoying now. All the TV series, the new animated stuff, the new novels, which are fantastic, all the stuff that came after the sequel trilogy or after Force Awakens, all of this stuff that Kathleen Kennedy, all these things that we got, Andor, what have you, Kenobi, all of this stuff, it was possible because they went through the wall first in this particular era of Star Wars. So when I look at the photo, I do have a bit of melancholy or bittersweetness to it, but I love them and I love what they tried to do. And so for me, I still feel the promise and possibility. And the fact that Daisy Ridley and Boyega might be coming back together in another movie gets me even more excited. And hopefully Poe at some point down the road, because Oscar Isaac has said he's much more open to the possibility, and maybe even Adam. And some way, shape, or form, Kylo making an appearance in some way, I think would be exciting to see as well. So to me, I look at the photo and I don't have as much negativity around it. I'm more like just feel connected to these people and feel sorry that they had to go through the things they had to go through. But I also appreciate their bravery and willing to take this on, especially at such young ages. You know, you forget how young Daisy and Boyega were when they took on this massive responsibility, and all the people involved here, bringing Mark back, bringing Carrie back, bringing Harrison back, like all the promise and possibility. And like you said, when that first trailer dropped, I remember exactly where I was in my room in my apartment in West Hollywood before I'd gotten together with the Lady Outlaw. I remember that trailer dropping, and I just remember like fucking crying when he said Chewie, we're home. Just lost it. And I think it debuted at Celebration, then dropped the trailer like an hour later or something like that. And one of the first reactions I ever had to anything, and I just effing loved it. So they can't take that away from me. No matter what negativity, toxicity, those memories, those moments, they can't take that away from me. And that's what I connect when I look at that picture. You know? So.
John, you make a really good point in that all of the things that we're enjoying now, such as the Bad Batch and the books, that we wouldn't have those things if the fandom hadn't sort of renewed itself with the Renaissance. In the release of The Force Awakens. I mean, the fact that the idea of not having the High Republic, the idea of not having the Mandalorian, and that's so devastating to even think about. And we have those things because The Force Awakens kicked all of it off. So thank you for making that point. That's great.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we should wrap up here and talk about May the 4th. There's a lot of big sales, big events, big celebrations happening. Laura, what is your plan for May the 4th? Do you have things going on? Is there certain things that you do on May the 4th specifically? Have you seen some of those new Funko Pops that are embracing Phantom Menace, some of the new Lego sets, all these sales that are happening? What is your plan for May the 4th? And do you have anything you're particularly focusing on?
Well, I'm not a collector, so none of the toys or sales or anything are really all that appealing to me. But my plan, after having such a busy weekend at the con last weekend, is to sit on my couch and do nothing all weekend. And by do nothing, I mean watch Tales of the Jedi on repeat. Probably the entire weekend. I'm very much looking forward to that. That's the thing. I mean, the idea of getting this Barriss story and catching up with her. Oh, I can't wait. I'm so pumped. So no, I really don't have any plans. In the past,
you mean Tales of the Empire? You mean Tales of the Empire?
Tales of the Empire. I'm sorry. You're right.
I want to clarify for people who are following.
Yeah, I think in years past, what I always end up doing inevitably is playing some sort of trivia. I mean, especially during the pandemic, there were all these virtual trivias, and it was this great way for me to like stay warmed up and stay practiced for the Schmodown. Right. And I am very happy to not do that ever again. So it'll just be me, Tales of the Empire, and my couch.
Right on. Kevin, what is your plan for May? Do you have any plans for May the 4th or anything you're looking at? You're going to buy anything, purchase anything, you celebrate in some way?
I have to fend off all the calls from my buddies in San Diego that are like, it's Star Wars trivia night tonight. Let's go clean up. Like they just want to like use the Smasher to win $50 as a prize. And half of me wants to do it, but half of me knows if I like even commit to one of the Star Wars trivia nights that like I'll whip out the old Smasher files and like I can't do it. Like, so I think we'll take it easy. Like I said, there is an opening at some point during the weekend. I am with my family this weekend, obviously, but there is an opening where I'd have a couple hours to myself. And I was thinking maybe the Phantom Menace, but every time I think about it, I'm like, man, I'm still all of these movies in the inner geekdom and Star Wars world. For me, it's been a nice break from them. I still watch Star Wars content, obviously, but I don't know. I know the Phantom Menace way too much. I could probably recite it or act it out for you guys if you'd like, but so to go in and watch it again. Now, are they doing 3D or is it non-3D or is it both?
I don't know, brother. I didn't go.
3D was fun. I always liked 3D. I was the only negative about Disney buying Star Wars was they put the kibosh on the rest of the they were supposed to once a year for 6 years re-release the 6 movies in 3D, and they stopped because then it was announced right after the Phantom Menace 3D re-release. But yeah, I hope everyone else has a great time out there in Star Wars land for the 4th. I'm not going to buy anything or anything like that, but yeah, potentially I might get roped into a Star Wars trivia night at a bar, pub trivia. We'll see.
Okay. Looking around me, it's all standard what I have around me in San Diego, but that doesn't mean that in cities like New York and LA or Chicago, they might have some 3D screenings. But from where I am in San Diego, I see nothing in 3D around me. So just standard, but still might be fun to go. I don't know. Maybe I'll go see it in the theater where I can kind of maybe reappreciate it. Maybe I'll do an out of theater reaction, or maybe I'll sit on Saturday and just get a bug up my ass and do the watch along of all 3 of the prequel trilogy films, just separate them with hours of a break in between each on my channel. Who knows? I get crazy like that sometimes. So we'll see. But either way, I'll be appreciating Star Wars. Or if I don't do that, I'll just sit and watch Andor season 1 all day, which I would love to do. So, all right, well, there you go. Whatever you plan to do for May the 4th, we send you our Star Wars love to you all and hope you enjoy May the 4th and celebrating one of the greatest franchises ever and the beautiful, positive, uplifting messages that are coursing throughout this entire franchise, no matter where it's animation or live action or in the books or comics or whatever, or the action figures, all that stuff. It's all about love and peace and joy and hopefulness, right? Hopefulness of a possible better future where we're all, accepting and living with each other in harmony. And that's what Star Wars is really all about at the end of the day. So thank you all so much for hanging out with us today and enjoying our spoiler review and our conversations about the Phantom Menace and looking back 10 years on The Force Awakens read through. Kevin, thanks again, brother. Where can they find you and what you got going on, brother man?
Kev Smets. You can also find the latest and greatest on Smash Studios, Smash City Studios. That's where all of our KOTOR content is, and of course Scoundrels Inc. as well. I believe we will be touching on the Bad Batch this week. I will make a rare appearance. I haven't done for a while, so that'll be fun. And other than that, I hope everybody has a fun, happy 4th, May the 4th.
May the 4th be with you. Absolutely. Laura Kelly, another fun show with you. Always great seeing you and love the new green screen. Please let people know where they can find you and what you got going on.
Thank you. So you can find me at shutup_Laura on Twitter. I am trying to be more active, and I definitely was the last couple days. There was a lot of Star Wars to talk about, which is great. The most recent episode of Force Toast to Star Wars Happy Hour, we caught up on Star Wars news and we did Bad Batch recaps. And it started with like reading trivia in like a stupid vaudeville accent. And if you listen, you can hear me gradually slip into like a John Mulaney impression. So like it just downgrades. But it was a really funny time. We had a good time. So you can check out my show at Force Toast Pod. That's the Twitter handle and Instagram handle for that. But yeah, it's all good times. We will be catching up on the High Republic comics soon. So if you're into High Republic, catch up on the comics, read Defy the Storm, and we will be recapping those soon.
That's great. There you go. As for me, at The Rocha Says on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, The Outlaw Nation on Twitch. Please remember to subscribe to the channel down below and hit that bell button. Marching towards 50,000 subscribers. Come aboard and hang out with us. The positivity that's happening here on the Outlaw Nation channel. Hit that subscribe button, that bell button. Leave your comments on everything we talked about. And if you want to send some support, you can hit that thanks button down there as well and send in some love for the show. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Have a great May the 4th, and we'll talk to you. Oh, no. And Laura, what do we have to say to her?
The lesson we took away from the Phantom Menace, John, is to always remember your focus determines your reality.